with Dr. Bartholomew Orr, pastor, author, husband, family man, and thought leader as he encounters other believers who have impacted the world with their God-given gifts and talents. Let's meet the people who are moving the church forward with their faith, wisdom, direction, and innovation. It's spiritual, it's motivational, it's church forward.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the tables are turned. I'm here with the podcast host himself, Dr. Bartholomew Orr. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Bishop Brown.
So we're here to ask you questions about your life and how you got started. And so, first question: you only get 3 words to describe yourself. What are they?
You know, my core values here at Brown: humility, integrity, excellence. And I would say and hope and pray that those 3 words are the hallmarks of my life.
Oh, wow. Those are some big shoes, big words to fill. Tell our viewers, who is Dr. Bartholomew Orr?
Well, you know, first of all, if I had to kind of, and I need to probably try to alliterate this thing, but it starts with a humble beginning. It started with a humble beginning. I'm the youngest son of Willie James, the late Willie James Orr, and Lorraine Orr. So I'm their baby boy. Had 4 brothers and 3 sisters that was in the home with us. And then later on, we discovered our 5th brother. So I'm the youngest child. We grew up here in South Haven on Swinney Road. So that's the unique thing, is that where I grew up, now I get a chance to pastor churches on both ends of the street. We grew up right across from the softball field, Miss Annie Brown property. My daddy was a sharecropper.
Wow.
And so many people don't know that, but Daddy worked as a oh my goodness, he worked for Hunter Fan in a warehouse during the day.
Really? And they're still around, right?
Hunter Fan. You know what? Are they still
I have
around?
a Hunter Fan in my house.
Oh, okay. You know, they made fans for so many years right there in Airways, right there in Memphis. And so Daddy worked there. My goodness, I think he started there in the late 60s and then worked there at Hunter Fan. He was a shade tree mechanic when he got off work. But in the midst of all of that, we were also sharecroppers. So he actually raised crops. We slopped hogs. We raised hogs and cows as well. So it was probably about 40 acres of land up there that Daddy kind of oversaw. And my goodness, we children worked that land. And so that was humble beginnings for me. Lived on a farm, grew up on a farm, lived in a 4-room house, no running water. I know people hear me say that in sermons, but, you know, 4 rooms in that house, 2, we slept in the 2 front rooms, and then there was a shed room and a kitchen.
So how did cooking, bathroom, all that?
Well, there was no indoor bathroom. So we went outdoors to the outhouse for toilet, and we took baths in number 2 tubs. There is a picture, maybe they can put the picture up.
I'm sure we got it somewhere.
Yeah, there is a picture of that old house and the number 2 tub that we would take baths. So we actually heated water up on the stove, and then we would actually, wherever we wanted to take a bath, put that tub and took a bath in number 2 tubs. As I grew older, because at first, all of my brothers and sisters was in that front room, and my parents slept in the other room. And as a baby, I actually slept in a baby bed in my parents' room. And so you had 6 brothers and sisters in the first room, because that first room actually had a couch and TV, but 2 beds that was in that first room. And oh my goodness. And so that's been one of my goals, is maybe to reproduce that house and rebuild it. But here's the thing. So we lived there until I was literally 20 and a half years old. When I started pastoring Brown at 19 and a half, January of 89, I was still living in that house.
So were the last siblings out, or were you the last one? Or
well, I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
So all of my other brothers and sisters had graduated, gone off to college. I was still in college myself, but I was still living there with mom and daddy. I went to Christian Brothers, stayed on dorm that first year, but the second year I was actually living at home. driving back and forth to school, and Brown hired me in the midst of that January. So I'm still living at that house, taking baths in number 2 tubs. Many people don't know this as well, but my original salary was $100 a Sunday. So the church told me, they said, look.
What did you buy with that?
They said, as the church grow, you will grow. So that's January of 89. By December, I was up to $250. and I was finally able to afford moving out to my first apartment out in East Memphis. Yes.
So you talk about you're the baby. So do you have typical, like, people think of the last sibling as kind of like spoiled and things like that?
I'm pretty sure I was spoiled. Yeah.
What do they feel about it?
They feel like I was spoiled as well. Melissa, my sister next to me, probably took a lot of whippings meant for me, and so I was mama's baby. So I was kind of spoiled. But keep it in mind too. I started preaching. Let's see, I saw the calling at age 9. So at 9, I get saved. I see my vision from God to be a preacher. And already by this time, I'm teaching. I'm doing some public speaking, doing Sunday school highlights and things of that nature. So, I was already doing a bunch of churchy stuff at that time. But yeah, I was spoiled.
Wow. And so in the midst of all this, so were you still living in the house when you started dating your wife, or how did that
I was still living in the house when I started dating Valerie. Valerie actually, look, one of the things was just seeing how a girl would handle that kind of environment. And so sure enough, I started pastoring in January of 89. Well, that was Valerie and I, we met August of 87. So at Christian Brothers, she's a year older. And so she was part of the, what do you call that group? Ambassador. She was an ambassador. So her job was actually to help the freshmen, to orientate the freshmen as we were coming in. So we became friends in 87. But I didn't ask her out until January of 89. So in January of 89, not only do I get a chance to start pastoring the church, but I actually go out with Valerie for the first time. and so we go out. Matter of fact, we're still in college now. So I'm 19. Where
did you go with that $100 salary?
Look, oh my goodness. Our first date was at Ruby Tuesday on Poplar, when it used to be upstairs.
Wow.
Where is that? Where is that area? It's close by where the library is.
Okay.
You know that little shopping center? There's a shopping center.
Where Mahogany and others.
What was it? And so they used to have a Ruby Tuesday upstairs. I took her out there, and so I had just started wearing glasses. So I'm pastoring. I'm a new pastor. I'm taking this girl out, and I order the most expensive thing on the menu, which was a blackened fish. I wasn't vegan then. Some kind of blackened fish, and wouldn't you know it, they brought it out smoking, sat it down in front of me, and my glasses fogged up. So this is a first date. I'm sitting there with fogged up glasses, but I'm new to glasses, so I don't know, hey, this stuff's supposed to happen like this. Finally, she says, you might want to take your glasses off and clean your glasses.
Oh, my goodness.
Sitting up there. But yeah, so we actually, I oftentimes say I got my 2 brides in January of 89, and we go out, but we actually didn't go back out after February, because by Valentine's Day I'd spent $99 on her, and I don't think I had gotten a kiss. Well, I hadn't gotten a kiss from her, first of all, and so, but we remained great friends. We were best of friends, I tell people, because she knew me, and I talked to her about everything and church life and all of that stuff. But it wasn't until the following year that we're going to actually go back out, and I end up marrying her. Yeah.
So what about, you talk about marrying Valerie, what about your family? How did that go? You decided to have kids? Like, what is that like?
So I asked Valerie to marry me April of 1990 is her birthday, right? So April of 1990, we're students still. So she's a graduating senior, and she was going to be graduating in May, and I'm a junior. I do 12 days to her birthday, coming up to April. By that time, every day, just like the 12 days of Christmas, so I'm dropping little cards and all that stuff on her desk. And that's April 21st. By the time she graduated, I had asked her to marry me. She had said yes, and we were looking for a date to get married. My first opening, because of preaching in revivals.
You had to find an opening.
I had to find an opening. Was August, and so I was in revival, and I asked the guy, "Can you let me off on the Friday night, because it's my
wedding day,
my day before my wedding." So they let me off on the Friday night. I get married on the Saturday. Mama calls me 8 o'clock, probably Sunday morning. Are you up, boy? Getting ready for church? and that Monday, I was starting revival in Batesville, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
So we did not do a honeymoon. we didn't do a honeymoon. And probably for the first, oh my goodness, I can't, this went on for several years until finally I asked the folks in Batesville. I said, look, I've never done a honeymoon with my wife and spent some time with her. And so I say all of that to say this. We get married. I still got another year of school left. And we really, I don't think we kind of planned it. We just said it was going to happen. When it happened, we actually probably thought we weren't going to be able to have children, believe it or not, because we weren't getting pregnant. And we had a niece that we were kind of just pouring our life into her. And then voila, she's pregnant.
Wow. And so you have four children, four boys.
4 sons. And I need to come up with another HB, but humble beginnings. God has just honored and favored us tremendously over the years. When we were pregnant with Bart, I'm working for the church, no insurance. I graduated college in 91. So, and I'm just doing church. Well, we find out we're pregnant. Now, we're like, okay, let's start saving money for this pregnancy to get ready for this baby and all of that stuff. And wouldn't you know it, I get hired at the state in like June or July of August, 1992. And one of the things doing orientation, they say the state covers pre-existing conditions. So the all of the monies, because we had worked it out with her gynecologist, we're going to pay you a little money every month to try to have this baby paid for. They say they cover pre-existing conditions. The guy gave us all of that money back, filed the insurance. That was the money for the down payment of our house.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So God just worked it out. And then those babies kept on coming. And finally, the Lord impressed upon me that it was time really to let the state go. And so we worked at the state until, I can't remember now, when I finished working at the state.
Oh, wow.
They paid for all my children. And
To be born.
To be born. 4 sons,
Wow.
Bart, Bates, Bradford, and Brandon. And we were, I would say, just a typical first family, if you will.
Got you. So talk about being a pastor in a first family. So most people know you as like a pastor, a family man, a thought leader, an author, but without using those words, and maybe you can alliterate, how would you describe yourself?
You know what? And I probably caught me off guard. Bartholomew Orr, I would just say I'm just a regular, down to earth guy. When it comes to the family, Valerie, my goodness, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my wife. And so people wonder, why do I say yes to whatever she says? Because of the fact that here it is, someone, we're young, we get married early on. She knows the good, the bad, and the ugly, and she loves me just the same, and have stuck through through thick and thin. So I mean, my goodness. So I would. Hey, Valerie would have to be in there in terms of just describing who I am. Talk about family. I'm thankful that we were able to raise up 4 sons, gifted, talented musicians, and now we are doing it all back over again. Now we are Honey, Graham, and Poppy with grandkids.
Oh, wow.
And it's so, I'm like, why do they like being at our house so much? We're old, and yet these young people, they like being around us. And so I think that's who we are. God has just blessed us to be some down home, regular people used by God to do some interesting things here and around the world.
So it's interesting you say you were called at such a young age. So did you ever have any other career paths or things you thought about before, like besides being a pastor?
Okay, so I knew I wanted to be a preacher. God called me. I started preaching. And my goodness, God blessed me. I was preaching probably, 2 and 3 times on Sunday. When I started pastoring Brown, I literally had to cancel preaching engagements because of the fact that service was happening in the evening time, in the afternoon time. Brown burnt down. They didn't have a building. They were meeting at somebody else's church. So, so it was, I was blessed to be able to preach a lot. However, going off to school, I knew that, I need a job in order to support myself and my family. Coming off of that farm, I wanted to make it, and I wanted to make it big. In school, I was the first African-American salutatorian at South Haven High School.
Oh, wow.
I was voted most likely to succeed by my class. Now, as a preacher, you're thinking, okay, you're most likely to succeed, but preachers wasn't. I didn't know of preachers that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just knew I was going to have a job. Electrical engineering was my major.
Oh.
I went to Christian Brothers as an electrical engineer major because I figured, okay, I'm going to make some money being an electrical engineer. Chemistry stopped those dreams.
It stopped a lot of freshmen.
Oh my
dreams.
Goodness!
It was a crusher.
Crusher. All of my life I had made straight A's. Teresa Watt, myself, we used to battle on grades left and right. But I had to struggle to make like a B in that class, and I'm like, you know what? I did not come to college to struggle this hard. I'm going to change my major. I changed my major to marketing. And so first semester, I'm electrical engineering. Second semester, I'm marketing because I said, okay, hey, I'm a preacher. I ought to be able to talk and sell things. Well, the start of my sophomore year, I changed my major again to accounting. Math was my favorite subject in high school. And so I started being an accountant. I loved being an accountant. So that whole second year, my sophomore year, I'm an accountant. And in the midst of that, I started pastoring Brown Baptist Church. And when I started pastoring Brown Baptist, guess what was the first thing that I did? Well, I set the church books up.
Aha.
So I'm like, okay, let me.
So you're the first bookkeeper.
Hey, let me make sure. The church had burnt down.
Yeah.
They were in the process of rebuilding. Hey, let's make sure that we got everything set up, computerized, and so forth. But this is 89.
Well, I'm about to say, what kind of computers did they have back then?
I'm trying to the Excel program. It was a spreadsheet program back in the day that I used, and actually getting the church set up and doing our books and all of that stuff. Because again, I was accounting major, and it wasn't until my junior year that I switched one more time because now I'm pastoring. I figure, okay, well, maybe I might be able to make a living at pastoring. And I switched to humanities, and I graduated with humanities.
Oh, wow. And so you talk about your experience and people talking about you being a pastor, and people sometimes are familiar with your faith journey, but how have you been tested as a pastor?
How have I not been tested as a pastor? I mean, I've faced all of the challenges that any other person face. All right. My mama said it like this. They would ask mama, well, Lorene, how is that boy, around the house? And here's what mama would say. Look, he's like any other 12-year-old outside the pulpit. Now, in the pulpit, he's God's preacher, but outside the pulpit, he's like any other 12-year-old boy. And I think that's my life. I mean, I'm regular. I'm ordinary. I know that was
that's a book.
That's a book. That's a book. That was the first book. I'm ordinary, but God has, so I faced my challenge. I faced my challenges in pastoring. Face my challenge in how do you keep everybody on the same page? How do you keep everybody moving in the same direction? And so I pastor Baptist people. So, Brown is used to me saying my hardest job has been refereeing. And so how do you keep everybody, from fighting each other, fighting me, and moving in the same direction? We've faced our challenges even as parents. I mean, my goodness, we're raising children, and we're raising children in these days. We're raising grandchildren and so forth. So any kind of parent struggles, we've had our share of all of that. So my faith has been tested time and time again.
Oh, wow. So what advice would you give to parents with all the things that are coming in with the culture now? What advice would you give to them as far as wisdom in raising their kids?
Let me just say, first of all, relationship. We can't overstep the boundary that God has established parent-child relationship. I talked about it in a sermon about bringing them to Jesus, So how do we, one, establish that relationship, create that time and transparency with them where they can trust you, feel as if they can come to you, okay? And then when they do come to you, how do you not overreact? How do you make sure that you keep your cool, so that because they need to know that, hey, I can come to mama and daddy and talk to them about anything. So how do you build that kind of bond, that kind of relationship? You're still their parent, and so you still have to teach them, preach to them the word of God. My fellas probably got tired of me because every time I had a funeral, every time something happened in the news, it was like, now, something would go on. Now, you know what? Now, let me just tell y'all, and they were like, we're so tired of hearing about dead folks. We're so tired of hearing about all of these tragedies. Don't do this, don't do that. But you have to make sure that you're reinforcing the word of God, and especially with some life lessons for them along the way. But I failed as a child. I did not do everything right as a child. And I need to know that, I need to give my sons grace. They're going to fail. They're going to make mistakes because we all do. And how do we love them even through all of that?
So you talk about being a parent, being a pastor, all these things so young. Did you have like mentors, or how did you get like wise counsel at? So I'm from 9 to 19 to being a parent. Like, what did you do?
So, I'm thankful that I had godly parents. So let me start there. So God did put my daddy, Willie James Orr, and Daddy and I didn't always see eye to eye. Hey, I left home. I ran, I guess you can call it run away from home or left home and all of that. Yeah, so when was my faith not tested?
You ran away. You probably to get some water, some running water.
It was all of, oh my goodness. I think when I did run away one time, it was all for about a couple of days. I finally came on back home. But Daddy, what I love about Daddy, the work ethic. So my daddy taught me great work ethic. That look, in life, you need to work. You need to make sure that you're earning your keep, hard labor. So, from the farm activities that we did on a daily basis, being under being a mechanic. I used to help my daddy out there with the cars. So I knew the wrenches and I knew what to do. I siphoned gas. Can you believe that? With the old hose. So the work ethic from daddy. Mama was great spiritual in terms of just giving us that leadership, that faith foundation. But then Pastor Helton played such an important role. He came to Brown when I was 9 years of age. That's the year he came. I think he came in June. I get saved in August. I was his firstborn son in the ministry. And so when I say that we were like this, and I kind of, wanted to be like Pastor Sherman held it, right? I bought whatever Bible he was reading. I begged Mama to buy me that kind of Bible. And this was in a day and time, again, living in a 4-room house. Yeah. But Mama would spend $60 and $100 just so that I could have a Bible, that Reverend Helton had. Wow. And so, it was that kind of investments that they were making in me. His cologne, the cologne that he wore.
Oh, Lord.
Is the cologne that I still wear today. Cologne.
Oh, is that what you have on now? What
Kuros.
cologne is it?
Yes, Kuros.
Oh, wow.
I still wear Kuros. That's one of the 2 colognes that I wear, but it was from the olden days with Pastor Helton. And so it's that kind of wisdom that I've had along the way. And then other pastors that have poured into my life. My uncle, Pastor B.F. Abram, was another one who took me under his wings. Oh my goodness, he preached me often. Before pastoring Brown, I was getting the opportunity to pastor New Bethel every second Sunday because he left them in my hands. R.L. Jones, another one. He was the one, he gave me my first opportunity to do revival, even as a boy preacher. I would go in, he took me to the country and I would preach revival. So I've had great mentors along the way.
Wow. And so how do you, pay it forward now as far as mentoring others?
My goodness, there's a group of pastors from Swaziland that I get a chance to actually go on a Zoom call with to mentor them. But as I travel around the country, travel around the world to get a chance to pour into the life of other pastors and so forth, I do want to pay it forward. We got 5 M's at Brown: message, maturity, mission, ministry. The 5th one is mentoring. So it is vital, important to me.
So you talk about innovation, and you talk about, it seems like you were very innovative from a young age, but how has that, have you always been just innovative in your thinking and your sermon and pastoring? Have you just always had that, or how has that evolved over the years?
In terms of props, I guess I'm kind of known for props. Even before I started preaching, my mama did a love day at New Hope. And so somebody gave Mama a I love you bowl. And my job was to take that bowl every year and illustrate that bowl in a message. Maybe those were my earliest days of using a prop in order to convey the message of God. At 12 years of age, Mama gave me a globe that became As the World Turned, Keep Your Eyes on Jesus. And that was a sermon, that I would preach. And so props have always been a part of just, I guess God have just wired me that way of using illustrations and keep it in mind, when I saw my vision at 9, talk about innovation. I see my vision at 9 years of age. I'm in bed one night in that 4-room shack. I wake up and I'm in that shed room that I was in on my bunk bed. And I see myself pastoring a church. I see myself preaching. But I see not only myself pastoring and preaching, but I see the kind of church God wanted me to pastor. A church that ministered to the whole person. This is at 9 now, in a 4-room house. But I saw that God wanted me to minister to a church that spiritually, physically, financially, a church that eliminated welfare, a church that stopped and addressed teenage pregnancy, a church that was, so this was a church that was dealing with all of these issues, and God gave me that at 9 years of age. Oh, wow. So when I think about Brown now, it's like, hey, the seed was planted in a 9-year-old fella.
So how has that evolved over the years as far as the vision, or have you had other pivotal moments where God has poured more to add on to that?
Over the years, here's what I'm thankful for over the years. Because as you grow, you then begin to see that, okay, there's so much I don't know. And there's so many ways that I need to surround myself with individuals that are creative, that are thinkers, So Memphis State say we want dreamers, thinkers, and doers. Well, that's our little tag thing even here at Brown, that I need dreamers, thinkers, and doers along with me. And I'm thankful that over the years, and I think it's just the favor of God, that he kept surrounding me at the right time with more dreamers, more thinkers, more people that was creative, membership that was buying into the vision and supporting the vision. We couldn't do what we do here at Brown if it wasn't for the members, the volunteers. I mean, even the friends of Brown. I mean, and so it's mind-boggling that now God has given us a great community of people to work with.
Oh, wow. That talk about being innovative. So we have a few questions from viewers.
Okay.
They want to know, does Valerie ever get tired of you preaching?
Yeah. Look, we get married, and she's having to preach, she's having to watch me preach, listen to me preach. But I would say this, over the years, every time we had a child, it knocked out one of the revival nights. So she used to go with me to revival 5 nights. And every time we start having a child, okay. So I think that's why we stopped at 4, so that at least she could come to one night. But she's been a great supporter of our preaching ministry. But again, I know that I run a whole lot, and so I try not to put that burden on her to keep up with me.
So that's the next question. So what do you do for fun? Do you just preach, or people want to know, like, what do you do for fun?
Traveling is therapy for me, is getaway time. So I love traveling with Valerie. Shopping is the other thing. I hate it. We love to travel. We love to be able to see new places, experience new things. We love to shop, to be able to, shopping is one of those things. Our home is another one of those things that gives us great joy. This is a home that, again, we don't live in a 4-room house.
Oh, okay.
Anymore.
You have running water now.
We have running water.
Get somebody there.
we do have running water. Matter of fact, when we were building, the house that we live on is on land that had been in my family for generation. And so thank you, Mama, for the land. And so we were able to build. We built a house that we designed ourselves, laid out. And over the years, we've been able to customize that house to our liking. Valerie is a designer. And so interior designing, furnishing, all of that stuff is just her passion. And so that's another way that we really like to live out and to have fun doing that stuff. We watch HGTV together. Rock the block.
So speaking of that, people want to know, are you really vegan? That's what people ask.
Am I really vegan? I am really vegan. I'm really vegan. Over the last year or so, Valerie actually transitioned back to being a pescatarian. Because of the fact of just for health and her own needs that she had in order, so we're older now. And so she's doing that because we wanted to do what was best for her. But in terms of myself, I'm still vegan. And so I still don't eat meat. It's 100% plant-based for me. And believe it or not, I am afraid to eat meat or to get anything with dairy or cheese or egg, because I'm just, your system have not had that now for 20 plus years. I can't even imagine. One of my mothers went without meat for a while, And when she went back to it, she said, "Oh, Pastor, it tore me up." So can you imagine if I were now to chew on some steak?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We'll have to we'll see. Maybe in heaven. But final question, if you could have dinner with any biblical figure, who would it be and why?
Can I get a chance to choose two?
We'll let you choose two.
You know what? The first one that comes to my mind is David. All right. Because David is a man who's a man after God's own heart. And yet David was faced with everyday struggles of life. One of the best sermon series that I preached here at Brown was on the life of David. I just believe David identifies with all of us. So oftentimes people feel as if you got to be the super saint. Mm-hmm. And here's a boy, that gets started with the Lord. And yet he had his ups and his downs, his struggles. And yet God loved him in spite of it all. And he loved God with everything that he had. And so I think we can learn much from David, from family to church life, the whole nine things. So David would be one. The Apostle Paul would be the other. Paul has just been another one of my just favorite characters in the Bible for just how he went and how God used him in multiple places to start churches and do a lot of wonderful things.
Oh, wow. Well, that's all our time right now. But if you want to know more about Pastor Orr, make sure you follow him on Facebook, Instagram.
That's right.
Twitter,
and all of that other,
YouTube,
of that other stuff.
And
yes.
make sure that you tune in to Church Forward Conversations every time it comes on. You can subscribe to Pastor Orr's YouTube page to get more information about when it comes on, and follow him on his social media icons, and as well as go to his website, bartholomeworr.org. All right.